It's the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We're coming to you from our homes on this Friday afternoon. We'll be here for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports topics, and excited to do so. Wade, have you stayed dry so far today?
As best I can, Mo. We've been ducking and dodging. Did a little bit of that yesterday, did a little bit of that today. But by and large, I haven't had to bust out the rowboat just yet. So I'll call it a good Friday so far.
That was me knocking on wood, because there are areas where that's not funny.
No, yeah. I mean, especially with all of the saturation that we had last week.
Mhm.
We didn't get a ton of rain in Pulaski last night, but we had some brutal winds. And you didn't really know that trash cans could be used as projectile objects outside of maybe WWE, I guess. But yeah, they were flying yesterday. It was quite the scene.
Oh, goodness. Well, I hope everybody's okay down that way as we head toward the weekend. Big weekend, as a matter of fact. We've got the WNBA draft coming up Monday night. And so in our second hour, we will be joined by Megan L. Hall of For the Win. She covers the WNBA and women's college basketball as well. So we're going to check in with her, get her thoughts on what may take place on Monday night, whether Paige Bueckers is the number one pick, or whether she winds up in Dallas, I guess, or how that plays out. You know, we talked with Willie G. Ramirez earlier in the week, and he kind of laid out a scenario where either it's not Dallas making that pick, or maybe it's not the UConn star winding up in Dallas. But we will explore all of that with Megan L. Hall in the second hour. In the next segment, we'll be joined by Chris Lee of Southeastern 16, talking a little Southeastern Conference baseball. Every weekend is big in this league, and this one is no exception. We will talk to him about some series coming up involving our local teams and others across the league as well. So looking forward to that. We'll also talk some Major League Baseball, as well as some NFL and some NBA developments. And we'll get you ready for the weekend with some local activity, or some activity involving some local teams, and spread it out a little bit as well. So plenty going on, plenty to talk about. Wade, any half marathons this weekend?
Not this weekend, thank goodness. We got the Nashville half coming up at the end of the month. Luckily, be covering that and not running that. So my legs are good for the time being. So. I made Mo freeze with that remark. I didn't realize that would be such earth shattering right there. But are you still there?
What did you say? I missed it. I am. I think I am. Can you hear me?
I got you now. No, not this weekend. The Nashville half's at the end of the month, and I said, luckily, I'm covering that one and not running that one. My legs get a bit of a reprieve, but there will be some distances traveled probably in the next few months. So this weekend we'll rest.
Well, I was asking, could you give us a first-hand account of that Nashville half, maybe?
Yeah. Not of the actual race itself. My trick is, last year I deployed this. Huge fan of the e-bikes here in Nashville, and you can cruise those things around. And if you know how to get in and out of certain spots, you can see a good chunk of the race from different angles. So hopefully I'm not giving away too much of my trade secret there, but looking forward to deploying the wheels rather than my wheels, as it were, this weekend. Yeah.
Well, see, here's the thing. People can know the plan, but they still might not be able to execute it, Wade.
This is true.
There you go. Let's go ahead and get things rolling with yesterday's results and this weekend's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Lock and load, boys and girls. The Friday rundown is here. It is time to get it on, and we crank things up with baseball scores from last night across the mid-state. We begin in the greater Nashville area, where CPA picked up a 10-4 win versus Innsworth. Centennial downs Brentwood last night 5-4. It was Middle Tennessee Christian 7, Friendship Christian 1. Goodpasture took care of Lawson 11-6. Lebanon picked up a 14-2 win versus Gordonsville. It was Station Camp 11, Hendersonville 4. Hume Fogg with a 12-1 win versus Glencliff. Kenwood clubbed its way to a 20-19 victory versus Hunters Lane. Big win for Kenwood there. Again, 20-19 was your final. If that was too many runs, Smyrna and Murfreesboro Central Magnet, don't know if they finished this game. Don't know if it was called a tie, how that was, but it was 0-0 was the last reported score we got. So that may be more some fans' cup of tea there, I suppose. Other scores. Oakland took care of John Overton 12-4. It was West Creek falling to Rossview. Rossview with a big win, 19-1 last night. Santa Fe downing Perry County 8-7. Stewart's Creek slips by Coffee County 5-3, and Watertown defeats Upperman 6-1.
In softball action on Thursday evening, Battleground Academy with a 17-2 win over Columbia Academy. It was Coffee County with a 4-0 win over Columbia Central. Gallatin, 21-1 over Hendersonville. Don't know what the Lady Commandos did to the Lady Wave, but looked like Gallatin taking out some frustration there. Greenbrier with a 9-1 win over Portland. It was Cookville by 2 touchdowns over Laverne, 14-0. Stewart's Creek with a 6-1 win over Lebanon. Summertown defeats Lewis County 7-3. Richland 16, Santa Fe 1. Smyrna edges Wilson Central 2-1. And I'm not sure what to make of that Wilson Central Smyrna 0-0 situation there. But that rounds out our softball scores from Thursday.
Yeah, weather could have got some of them. It trickled in and out of Middle Tennessee yesterday, I guess, right?
Yeah. Continuing, boys soccer action. Loretto with an 8-0 win over Wayne County. It was Macon County 5, White House 1. Providence Christian doubles up Middle Tennessee Christian 4-2. Mount Juliet with a 1-0 victory over Blackman. And Laverne and Stewart's Creek played to a 2-2 draw. In Major League Baseball action last night, Braves with a 4-2 11-inning victory over the Phillies, capped by a Marcell Ozuna 2-run walk-off homer. More about that one later in the show, obviously. In hockey action, the Hockey Club of Utah fell to the Nashville Predators of all people, 4-3 in shootout. Not overtime, but in shootout.
Crazy finish last night, Mo. The Preds actually went a man down in the overtime. I somehow found myself watching some of this, and they survived the power play, forced the shootout, got a couple of saves, banged in the wrister for the winner, and nice win for the Preds toward the end of the season here.
You know, during the Braves rain delay, I checked out some of it, and when they went down 2-0 to the Hockey Club, I was done. I just waited out the rain delay and went back to the Braves. Meanwhile, the Grizzlies drop a tough one last night in NBA action, falling to Minnesota 141-125. Ant with 44 in that win for the T-Wolves, and we'll talk a little bit more about that one later in the show as well. Over at First Horizon Park, the Memphis Redbirds pick up their first win of this series with an 8-3 victory over the Nashville Sounds.
That brings us to today's schedule, and let's tap in, folks. The weekend begins at 4:30 with baseball action as West Creek travels to Hume Fogg. Also at 4:30, Providence Christian will travel to Smith County. 5 o'clock showdown for Riverdale, who is at Blackman tonight. 5:30, we'll see West Creek versus Kirkwood, Westmoreland at Clay County. 6 p.m. showdowns now for Hampshire at Moore County. Eagleville is on the road at Mount Pleasant. Shelbyville will travel to Murfreesboro Central Magnet. Stewart's Creek will be at Nolansville tonight. Wilson Central traveling to Oakland. Culleoka visiting Perry County tonight. Hendersonville will be at Station Camp. Lawrence County making the short trip up to Summertown tonight at 6 p.m. Also at 6, it'll be Blackman at Tullahoma. Giles County scheduled to go to West Limestone, Alabama. Santa Fe is on the road at Zion Christian tonight. Montgomery Central will be at Clarksville Academy. Again, continuing 6 o'clock matchups. Also, it'll be Forest at Harpeth, and Beach will be at Independence. Let's move to 6:30 now, where we see Waverly at CPA. MBA is on the road tonight at Clarksville. Loretto will travel to Columbia. Lawson will travel to Columbia Academy. Page will be at Fairview tonight. Hillsboro at Franklin. Green Hill will host Siegel this evening at 6:30. Middle Tennessee Christian will do the same as Brentwood comes to town. Capping our 6:30 showdowns, Cane Ridge will be at Portland tonight, and Battle Creek will come to Linville to meet the Richland Raiders.
7 o'clock start for Smyrna at Centennial over in Cool Springs. Also, cross-county rivalry as Dixon County travels to Creekwood at 7. East Nashville is at Howard, as in Chattanooga, I presume. That's a 7 o'clock start. Don't know if that's 7 o'clock Eastern or 7 o'clock Central. So check your local listings. St. Pius X of Georgia will be at Overton at 7 o'clock. That is definitely Central Time. Also, Ravenwood goes to Lebanon. Summit is at Mount Juliet. Both of those are 7 o'clock first pitches as well. And at 7:30, Clarksville Northwest is at Gallatin. In softball action today, Overton makes the short trip, almost a walk, to Franklin Road Academy for a 4:30 start. At 5, Loretto plays a double dip down at Wayne County. The first game will start at 5. The second game will follow, obviously. Giles County is at Battle Creek at 5. Columbia Central goes to Cascade at 5. At 5:30, Clarksville Christian is at Franklin Road Christian. Also, Westmoreland travels north of the border, taking on Monroe County of Kentucky. Zion Christian faces Rockvale at 5:30. Middle Tennessee Christian plays at Columbia Academy at 5:30. 6 o'clock start for Richland at Cullioca, Eagleville at Summertown, and Wilson Central will play Rockvale at 7. In boys soccer action, 5 o'clock on the pitch, Ezel Harding hosts Zion Christian. 6 o'clock, Marshall County is at Lawrence County. Also at 6, Murfreesboro Central travels to Tullahoma. Richland is hosting Loretto at 6:30. At 7, it's Hendersonville out in Memphis taking on Christian Brothers. Also at 7, Giles County travels to Franklin County. Oakland hosts Siegel. Rockvale is at Riverdale. White House goes to Rossview, and Columbia Central visits Warren County.
That brings us into boys lacrosse action tonight, which gets underway at 6:30 as Oakland will travel to Wilson Central. Also showing a women's lacrosse showdown. Same teams, same place, same time. Men and women's lacrosse at 6:30 tonight, Oakland at Wilson Central. MLB action this evening. The Braves will open up their set versus the Rays at 6:05. You can see that game on FanDuel Sports South. The Astros are at home this weekend. They begin their showdown versus the Angels. First pitch comes your way at 7:10 this evening. The Grizzlies are right back in action, and they are right on the road, going from Memphis to Denver and taking on the Nuggets. Key Western Conference showdown tonight at 8 o'clock. You can see that one on FanDuel Sports South. Friday and Saturday action. If you missed the Friday 6:35 first pitch, you can see it at the same time in the same place as the Memphis Redbirds and Nashville Sounds continue once again. Friday, Saturday games, both beginning at 6:35. Speaking of baseball, let's turn the calendar now to Saturday, where action gets underway at 11 a.m. Lawrence County will be at Lexington, Alabama. Kirkwood traveling to Gallatin. CPA will be at East Robertson in a noon start time on Saturday. It'll be Zion Christian at Franklin Road Christian at noon as well. Other noon games include Waverly at Friendship Christian, Providence Christian at Laverne. Rossview will be at Liberty Creek. 1 o'clock first pitch for Riverdale at Wilson Central. Also Westfield, Indiana at Good Pasture. East Nashville at Howard, set for a 1 o'clock start time. Again, check your local listings on the Eastern or Central in that one there. 1:30, it'll be Clarksville Northwest versus Kirkwood. 2 o'clock, we'll see Liberty Benton, Ohio, travel to Mount Juliet Christian. Also at 2, it'll be Cookville at Rockvale. 3 o'clock showdown for Christian Community, who will be at White House. At 4 p.m., Westfield, Indiana, right back at it, taking on Good Pasture. And again, at 4 p.m., first pitch. 5 o'clock start time for White House at White House Heritage. We call that the Scott Stewart Bowl. All his family from up in that neck of the woods there. So good luck, Scotty, no matter who you're cheering for. Riverside Christian Academy will be at Ezel Harding at 6 o'clock tomorrow night, as will Mount Juliet, who's on the road at Siegel. Creekwood will travel to Dixon County at 6:30, and at 7 p.m. tomorrow night, it'll be Warren County traveling to Gallatin.
Softball action tomorrow morning, 10:30. Franklin takes on Rockvale. Also, Shelbyville is at Riverdale. We do not have a time. Boys soccer action at 12 noon. Hendersonville stays out west, taking on Bartlett. Again, that's a 12 noon matchup out in West Tennessee. Flag football action up in Sumner County tomorrow, 9 o'clock. Station camp is at Liberty Creek. Also, Portland faces Beach. And at 10 o'clock, it's White House and Gallatin and Westmoreland and Hendersonville. Baseball action Tomorrow, it's a 3:10 start as the Braves and Rays, no Devils, continue their series at Steinbrenner Field in Tampa. Again, that's a 3:10 start. You can see it on FanDuel Sports. At 6:10 on the MLB Network, it's the Angels and the Astros. On the pitch, over at Geodis Park, it's a 7:30 first touch when Real Salt Lake comes to Nashville, taking on the Nashville Soccer Club. Again, 7:30. You can see it on Apple TV. And on the ice, 9 o'clock puck drop for the Nashville Predators out in Vegas, taking on the Golden Knights. That one's also on FanDuel Sports. Sunday, Braves and Rays, 12:40 on FanDuel. Angels and Astros, 1:10. Probably got to have the MLB package to pick that one up locally. In NBA action on Sunday, the Dallas Mavericks come to FedEx Forum, taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. That's a 2 o'clock tip. It's on FanDuel. And at 2:05, the Memphis Redbirds and the Nashville Sounds complete their 6-game series over at First Horizon Park. Again, that's a 2:05 start Sunday afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Your top story brought to you, as always, by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And if you are a UT fan, a UT football fan in particular, I'm probably not telling you anything you don't know. But at any rate, Nico Iamaleava missed practice today as apparently NIL negotiations are ongoing between the starting quarterback and whoever you negotiate NIL with. He had participated in the position group dinners on Thursday night, and so all of a sudden there's a lot of uncertainty here. Transfer portal closes today, so I don't know if this is some sort of a power play here or what exactly this is, but it's not something that we need to see in college athletics. Players holding out at the collegiate level is definitely a new thing. So,
yeah, if you're Tennessee, nothing about this is great, right? Because on one hand, you want to see Nico get back in and get as many reps and hopefully improve for what was, an up and down season last year. There were flashes of brilliance. There were also some flashes of a young kid out there making his first real run through of it. So you're hoping that you get as much seasoning on him as possible. He has had this NIL kind of cloud, quote unquote, hanging over him since he arrived on campus. It's been talked about, and it's continuing to be talked about. It seems like this is kind of an interesting development here. And as you said, I mean, it's kind of where we're at. And I mean, this is like the position in the sport where you maybe perhaps do have some, major bargaining power. It feels like the quarterback at an SEC school or any, big power conference school feels like maybe they have potentially some leverage here. I'm genuinely curious to see how this plays out. I have no clue what's going to happen.
Yeah, this is a tough situation, I think, for everybody involved. I mean, if you are Josh Heupel, the drop-off is pretty steep from Nico to whoever QB2 is on that roster. And so I don't really think anybody ever considered the possibility that he would not be there. And, when you're hearing that the family is pleased with his situation as far as NIL goes and that kind of thing, I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know who's driving this, but we do know that he wasn't at practice today. And it's not through, physical unavailability.
Yeah, and because it's the 21st century, we have the social media component to all this. And Nico's father criticized the report, talking about all this, and said more games being played on the field, off the field than on the field. We kind of are seeing all this play out as close to publicly as we can, and yeah, this is.
I don't know how you complain about the report. I mean, the fact of the matter is he wasn't at practice.
I mean, if you have a genuine argument, you want the report to come out, right? If Tennessee is in the wrong, or the NIL or the benefactor, however that's worded, you want those details to come out. You kind of want the court of public opinion on your side and put some extra leverage.
Because right now it's not.
Presumably, right. I mean, that's what I'm really curious. And again, he's a guy we obviously know all about the tale of Jaden Rashada and his, wild and crazy tenure from all across the United States and back again. And it feels like Nico in some ways has kind of been number 2 in terms of the most high profile NIL, whether it's just the amount of money that's being tossed around or the kind of publicity that is kind of followed behind. It just feels like this has kind of been hanging over him since he's arrived on campus. He played okay at times last year, but it still feels like there's more questions about his off the field stuff than on the field at the moment.
Tennessee's spring game is tomorrow. Will Nico be there? I think we'll know a lot by his presence or his absence. So stick around. We don't have a whole lot more than that. I'm not sure anybody else does either, but I'm sure this will continue to be a topic of conversation until it's resolved one way or the other. So stay tuned. Let's take a break here on the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll be talking a little SEC baseball with Chris Lee of Southeastern 16. Stick around.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Weekend warm-up continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. On tap is some Southeastern Conference baseball talk with Chris Lee of Southeastern 16 as we await his arrival. The two series that are of biggest concern for us are a couple of top 20 matchups as Tennessee travels to Ole Miss. That's number 5 defending national champion Tennessee going to number 6 Ole Miss. Tennessee coming off of a series loss this past weekend at home to visiting Texas A&M, the 2024 national runner-up, who had really been struggling before last Saturday when they just pounded UT 26 runs, 11 homers in a doubleheader sweep after dropping the Friday night ball game to UT. And the other game of particular local interest has number 17 Vanderbilt coming off their sweep at Florida, going out to Norman, taking on number 19 Oklahoma. So a couple of big series for the local folks at home. On the road this weekend. Looking forward to talking to Chris about both of those and other activity across the league once we get him in.
I mean, you said it and we could take this clip, cut it, and just insert it for the rest of the season. Every weekend. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be a massive week. Now, what's interesting is, especially give us another week or two, and certain series will mean certain things for certain teams, right? We've seen some teams like Texas A&M have to go and dig deep just to kind of claw back into, I don't want to say relevancy, but claw back into borderline contention and really kind of pull themselves out of the gutter. Whereas a team like Vanderbilt has maybe, in some regards, perhaps overachieved a little bit and continuing to stack some wins. They're playing just to kind of see what their ceiling can be. So it's kind of fun for me to just kind of, as best I can, visualize what every team is looking at going into each weekend and try and let the storylines unfold from there.
Man, and I'll tell you what, again, with 16 teams, it's there is little to no margin for error here. Vanderbilt at 7-5 in conference play, sitting pretty much right in the middle of the standings because Arkansas and Texas top the league at 11-1 each. LSU is 10-2. Tennessee's at 9-3. Georgia and Ole Miss are each at 8-4. So Ole Miss nipping at Tennessee's heels in the standings as they stand at this point through 3 conference series to this point. Alabama and Vandy each at 7-5. Auburn break even at 6-6. Kentucky and Oklahoma are each 5-7 in league play. Texas A&M, who played last night, is now 4-9. So they must have picked up a victory last night as well. So yeah, I mean it's a work in progress, obviously, and it's gonna move a lot from week to week just because the competition is so tough every week out.
Yeah, it's tough, and you got to be at your absolute best. But we are seeing Arkansas for sure, as Chris, and I want to ask him when he joins us here. But that's a team that we were all kind of salivating over what they could be, and they certainly have looked the part. Just 3 losses in general for the season. That's what I find fascinating. Every team kind of has, except for, I'm sorry to do this, but except for Missouri, every team has at least some little shred of a compelling storyline, even though we're approaching the halfway mark of the season here in terms of SEC play. It feels like everybody's still kind of figuring themselves out and still kind of telling their own story in many ways.
Everybody's got a compelling storyline, and you feel like everybody pretty much has some level of credibility, again, except for Missouri, and that's unfortunate. We mentioned that UT and Ole Miss and Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, a couple of top 20 matchups. You've also got, as you mentioned, number 1 Arkansas going to number 7 Georgia this weekend, and number 3 LSU is at number 11 Auburn. So just life in the SEC. With that, we bring Chris Lee, we think. Chris, are you there? Chris is not there. Mark, talk to us.
He's still having issues. Give him another second.
Okay. All right. Chris is battling some technical difficulties to get on with us. But again, 4 top 20 matchups in the league this weekend. Just continuing the same type conversation that we had throughout the football season, throughout the women's and men's basketball season. Chris Lee, are you there?
I am here. Having a little video trouble, but I'm here.
Well, we appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Way to be a player, Chris. We appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Battling adversity there to get on with us here on Main Street Sports today. Chris, we were just talking about the number of top 20 matchups, and that's going to be every weekend here in the SEC. But number 5 UT going to number 6 Ole Miss. What's your quick takeaway, or what's your quick storyline heading into that one?
My quick storyline. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would say the Andrew Fisher, Liam Doyle angle, because those kids did not leave Ole Miss on good terms. Ole Miss had them signed to an NIL deal that I think they'd been signed that day, and maybe literally backed out in the last few minutes, used that as a negotiating chip to sign in Knoxville. And also they talked another pitcher into going into the portal too that did not end up at Tennessee. And so I think we can assume there's not going to be tidings of joy in Oxford for the return of those two. So I think that may be storyline number 1 for the weekend.
And is Doyle the reigning SEC pitcher of the week?
No, I think it was Cade Anderson last week because Cade Anderson threw a complete game, 14 strikeout shutout on 135 pitches at Oklahoma.
Oof.
And I want to say, I can't remember if Doyle, I think they might have had relief help. I think Illinois might have thrown an inning. Don't take that as gospel.
Yeah, I think
you're
right.
Point here is that, yeah, I mean, normally that would win you pitcher of the week, but technically I don't think it did.
Okay. All right. So Ole Miss will feel like they've got a score to settle with UT coming to town, and they are coming off of a impressive victory over Alcorn during the midweek, 29-1. I think it set a program record for runs. I hope it did.
Yeah.
But so they are rolling offensively right now as UT comes to town. Not a better time for them to get the number 5 Vols and a couple of former team members at their place, I guess. So that'll be one to watch, as they all are pretty much. But 17 Vanderbilt, 19 Oklahoma.
Yeah. I think the big thing is you've had a last-minute storyline change potentially for that one. Kyson Witherspoon, who is their best arm and a potential first rounder, apparently not going to throw tonight. Now, he's had back spasms. They've left it open. They haven't ruled him out for the weekend. That could look like he throws tomorrow or Sunday. But that is a thing to watch because he is the most talented pitcher on either team. And they have had troubles with starting pitching as Oklahoma when he's not on the mound. They've got about 3 or 4 really, really good relievers. But in absence of Kyson Witherspoon, would burn those guys in different spots, and you may start getting to some guys you don't want to use if you're Oklahoma.
Now, doesn't he have a brother that pitches as well?
He does. Right? Malachi. Okay. They're twins, and Malachi is a pro prospect, maybe a top 5 round guy, but not nearly as refined as his brother at the moment.
Okay. All right. Vanderbilt got to be brimming with confidence. I mean, I know Florida 2025 isn't what we've gotten used to out of Kevin O'Sullivan and the Gators. But at the same time, if you go to Gainesville and you get 3, I don't think you care what they look like, do you?
No. And look, we've followed that program long enough to know that Florida's had their number more often than not. I feel like no program has gotten the best of Vanderbilt in the SEC over Tim Corbin's career more than Florida. So I think beating Florida and especially sweeping Florida down there is significant. And number 2, And I think we're running into what we ran into with basketball, and maybe to a larger degree. Florida just went outside the league and beat a top 10, top 15 Florida State team. Maybe for the second time this year. I'd have to fact check that. But the sum of wins and losses in the league is going to be as many wins as losses. And that is, irrespective of the quality of teams. Point being, you've got some teams in A&M and Florida that really taken it on the chin. I think that's more indicative of the league being what it is than those being bad teams.
Chris, I'm curious, as we Mo and I were kind of going through the standings and kind of going through a few different teams, have we reached the point, or have we officially hit a panic button, and can we almost scratch a few teams off as far as not just competing in the SEC, but their NCAA tournament berths are probably dashed? I mean, is a team like South Carolina, kind of capable of making a run? I'm just curious kind of where we kind of stand in the pecking order and what maybe some of these teams will be playing for coming down the stretch.
Yeah, and I'm pulling up the latest RPI just to be certain. I mean, I think there's only one team that is completely out of the discussion. That's Missouri. Everybody else, your lowest ranked RPI team in the league outside of Missouri, which is 146, by the way, is Texas A&M, your defending national champion at 56. So
runner up.
Yeah, excuse me. I keep saying that. Preseason number one and national. Believe me, Tennessee fans will let me know about that.
Yeah.
We're trying to help you, Chris.
Oh, I know. The preseason number one team, the unanimous preseason. That's what I meant, and also the defending national runner-up. But here's my point. Everybody else is in the top 50. As long as you're in the top 50, you are within striking distance. As long as you can get enough conference wins. Now, let's talk realism, okay? I don't think South Carolina is good enough to get there. It is now 2-11 after losing 1-8-7 in 10 innings last night. I think Florida might be good enough if it can get healthy, but 2-11 is a big hole. You'd have to get to, I think 12-win teams have made it, as long as that's like there's a rain out in there. I don't know that a 12-8 team has made it, but Florida is 34 in the RPI. South Carolina 44. I just don't think Carolina is good enough. Florida might be. And if Florida takes the next two against Missouri, you're looking at 4-11. It's got 3 against Mississippi State, which is in the same boat as Florida, but just a lower RPI. So if one team sweeps that series, then maybe you're there. A&M, if A&M can finish sweeping this series, it's realistically in the picture. And then everybody else right now, I think, would be in. Maybe Kentucky might not be 40 RPI, 5-7 in the league, but everybody's got a shot.
As we kind of ascend to the table or up the standings, I guess, if you will, has one team in particular kind of jumped out to you, whether it's their play or just the way they've kind of navigated the schedule just far? Who's kind of your surprise, maybe, I guess, in a positive light?
I think surprise. Well, I'll have to think about positive surprise. I think that's Alabama. But I think Arkansas is your best team in the country. When we did our power rankings last week, I didn't have to put any thought into that. I think LSU and Tennessee are in that next conversation. I think LSU's starting pitching gives it a bigger upside than Tennessee, but we'll see, because that team's looked awfully good until last weekend, and that was so out of context. You're like, okay, is that a piece of information or just a thing that was a blip on the radar? We'll find out a little bit more this weekend. Georgia's elite, but I don't think the pitching's going to be there. And Texas, I don't want to disparage what Texas has done, but it's a really good team. But I don't know that Texas is ultimately in the class of Arkansas, LSU, Tennessee. But right now, I like Arkansas the best of that group. I think that is the best team in the country, and I think it can get even better on the mound, which was supposed to be its strong suit.
We had you on a couple weeks ago, in the preseason. You kind of touted Arkansas, so I've kind of kept them on my radar. What is their deficiency or hole right now, or do they even have one at this moment of just 3 losses?
Well, I think what it is that their dominant pitching has not been as dominant as people expected. Gabe Gackel's got a 5.77 ERA coming into the weekend. He was supposed to be maybe not pitching out of the number one spot, or actually I guess he was. I think he was their opening day starter. Or in that mix. It's been a while now. But point is, he's an elite arm who hasn't pitched like it. You go down the list of their pitchers, they're going to get Gage Wood back at some point. He is an elite arm. That's going to help them. They've been pitching without him most of the year. And they got a lot of depth. They got quality guys like Dylan Carter and Will McIntyre and Aiden Jimenez. Landon Beetleshise is another kid, Ohio State transfer, that's pitched pretty well. Like any team would kill to have him in the 3-hole. But I think you've got Root could be an elite arm. Beetleshise could be an elite arm. Gackel could be an elite arm. A lot of guys like that certainly would. And they've pitched mostly well, but there's another gear in there for him, for all those guys. And I think that's what makes him scary, because the offense right now, believe it or not, might be the best in the league.
Chris, I'm just impressed at the way you handle Vital Shields. Is that what you said?
I think it's Beetleshise, and trust me, don't give me too much credit, because boy, I pronounced that probably 4 different times this year.
Well, kudos to you. You did it well. Chris Lee of Southeastern 16 joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. In addition to UT and Vanderbilt both being on the road, we talked a little bit about Arkansas. They're going to Athens this weekend. What do you feel? What's your feel for LSU at Auburn, number 3 and number 11, Tigers versus Tigers?
I'm excited about that one. LSU is the best team, but it's at Auburn, and starting pitcher for Auburn is Sam Dutton, who was a key member of LSU's rotation last year. Butch Thompson taught him a cutter. He's already thrown more innings this year than he did last year at LSU. I did not have Sam Dutton being an elite Friday night starter, but he's been that. I don't think he's pitcher of the year in the SEC right now, but he's put himself in that conversation. So I think that game tonight between he and Anderson, who was pitcher of the year last week, is one to watch. I think the question then is, can Auburn piece enough together if it can win Friday to get 2 more wins? LSU has got, like, if you're just going top 4 arms arbitrarily, I think I would take Cade Anderson, Anthony Ianson, Zach Cowan, and Kason Evans to anybody. And that's not even getting to Chase Shores and William Schmidt. Schmidt could have been a top 15 guy in the draft last year if everybody didn't know he wanted to go to LSU because he grew up a half mile from the stadium. Chase Shores could have been a first rounder 2 years ago. He's getting back from surgery after this last year. He was in a first round talent a couple years ago. Can get back there. I think that's what's, I kind of put Arkansas in a class by itself, and Tennessee could belong in that conversation depending on how it recovers this weekend. And LSU could absolutely belong in that conversation because it has just got so many dominant arms who can eat innings. And it's got some bullpen pieces, I think, that are pitching better than they can pitch better than they have. But back to where you're going, I'm watching that Auburn series because Auburn's a tough matchup. That team can hit a little bit 1-9. They've got and they're playing at home where I think everybody's going to be fired up for a huge series. Butch
Thompson has done a really good job down there in a short period of time, hasn't he?
Oh, man, he has gotten the most out of those guys. They will have a bad season and sometimes an awful season. And the next year they'll bounce back to, go to Alma, go to a super regional, host a regional, something along those lines. The resiliency that they've shown, and also I think one of my favorite guys in the game, like having dealt with him personally, everybody likes him. And when you deal with him, you know why.
Okay. Chris, again, the storyline has started in football preseason and continued to this moment, with the 16 teams in the league and that kind of thing. Southeastern Conference gets 14 in the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Going back to what Wade was asking you earlier, whether or not anybody had necessarily been eliminated, they don't get 14 in baseball, do they?
I don't think so, because that's not traditionally how they've done it. Like, and here's there's just some weird things in how baseball teams are picked versus how basketball teams are picked. And one thing, like, baseball is the most analytically friendly sport historically. Like, Pythagorean record and stuff like that's outside of win-loss has been mainstream in the Major League Baseball conversation for 20 years, if not more. Like, you never hear that spoken of in college. When you have discussions of, is this bubble team going to make it? Is that bubble team going to make it? It's like, this is their Ken Pom. This is their Bart Torvik. And the predictives are used a lot. They don't use any of that in baseball. Like, and even the NCAAs uses scoring margin and things like that to factor in. No, we're still stuck in the Stone Ages with RPI, where you can go to LSU and get beat 60-0 in a weekend and maybe see your RPI move up because you played a top 5 team on the road. And that's a stupid place to be. I cannot figure out why we're still stuck there. That's one part of it. So I don't think you've got some analytic measures that although the SEC teams do really well in the RPI, and some of that's because they're playing each other, but some of that's also because they're really good.
Eight of the top 9 and 9 of the top 11 from the SEC on the RPI at the moment.
Yeah,
they're doing pretty well.
And then you've got some other weird things. Okay, and you hear this every year in basketball, but they were just 7-11 in the SEC. Go check out the criteria for the selection committee. Conference record is not on there anywhere. In baseball, we treat that very differently. Like, you can go 20-0 in your non-conference games or whatever, but you go 11-19 in the conference, even if you might be a top 20 team, even if you played, the equivalent of LSU, Tennessee, and Georgia every weekend, that record will trump everything else. And I think that's unfair. Now, in softball, they seem to have figured it out a little bit. I don't really follow it, but I think you had one year they let all the teams in. I think that's what we ought to be doing more for baseball, because I think you're going to have teams that are regional caliber teams that if they're playing in fill in the blank conference, they're probably going 20-10. In the SEC, that might be more like 11-19.
There you have it. Chris Lee of Southeastern 16 joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Chris, did you stay up late last night?
I did till I got to the bottom of the ninth, and I went to get some sleep because I'll be up late tonight. So I saw A&M go to extra innings. I woke up and found out that it won it in the 10th.
11th.
Oh, was it 11th? Okay.
The
scoreboard I checked said the 10th. So
yeah. We'll take it any way we can get it, though. But yeah, Chris Lee, we appreciate you spending some time with us this afternoon and look forward to catching up with you soon.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot to talk about, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
You bet.
When we continue here on the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, we'll be talking about those overtime working Atlanta Braves from last night. Stick around after this.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
April 11th, 2001, Greg Maddux, Mike Remlinger, and John Rocker combined for a one-hit shutout as the Atlanta Braves won 2-0 at Shea Stadium against the New York Mets. Rafael Furcal's RBI double scored Paul Bacco, and Chipper Jones' homer to lead off the top of the seventh doubled the lead. The Mets' only hit came in the second as Todd Zeile singled with one out but was stranded at second base. Maddux finished with 6 strikeouts over 7 innings before Remlinger and Rocker each threw 1-2-3 frames to close out the victory. That was this day in Braves history. So the Braves won on this day in 2001, and they won yesterday as well. Between a rain delay and, as we mentioned, an 11-inning outcome, scored 3 runs in the 11th. Austin Riley with an RBI double with the ghost runner out at second base to start, as they do in extras. And then Ozuna drove Riley in with the go-ahead run with his walk-off bomb. So second homer of the year for Ozuna. Braves win a series over their NL East rivals. And, you know, as Wade was saying yesterday, that's no small feat for a team that has really had its issues getting the season started.
Yeah, I mean, this is about as good of an outcome as you could realistically expect, kind of considering the form that Philadelphia was coming in on and considering kind of where Atlanta was. You'll take 2 out of 3. Winning that first one, you know, you dared to dream just ever so slightly, you know, about taking all 3. But winning 2 out of 3 was clutch. Winning in dramatic fashion was epic. Wild scene last night as the Preds win and then the Braves win almost simultaneously. It felt like 10 minutes maybe at the most before they were both celebrating there on that app that shall not be named. But it was an epic night last night for Atlanta. But the real question, Mo, they announced the attendance at 36,630 people. 2 questions, I guess. Number one, when did they count that? And number 2, where'd everybody go? Because I did not see that many folks by the end last night.
Number 1, I guarantee you they counted that before the delay. And number 2, I imagine most of them went home. I don't know when you started watching, but it clearly was after the delay. And when you get a rain delay and extra innings, and I guess a 7:15 start, you got to really be hardcore to get through that. Now, I don't know that I would have left, but I can certainly understand if somebody else did. So
that's the reason the Omni exists, right? I mean, that is as good as it gets. If you want to go back to the room, hey, you can just roll right on back. You can watch the rest from your room. But I'm also wondering, you know, if some just random hotel patrons were like, hey, there's still a baseball game going on. I'm half lit at the bar. Maybe I'll just walk over. You know, they probably weren't really scanning too heavily on the tickets getting in after
not
that.
At that point.
A chance for some free baseball for some, yeah.
Come on in. Absolutely. Schwellenbach doing Schwellenbach things. 6 innings, 1 earned run on 7 hits, struck out 5. Obviously could not come back out after the delay and got a no decision, but quietly kind of continuing to anchor that rotation in the early going. You know, we talked about Strider yesterday, 13 strikeouts in 5 1/3 with a hard pitch count of 90. I think he has made his last start for Gwinnett. I would imagine Strider's next start will be in the majors for the Braves, and they can certainly use it because Sale has not gotten off to a Cy Young start. You feel like he's going to be okay, but there are some concerns about his velo or lack thereof. Obviously, we've already had the situation with Ronaldo Lopez, so getting Strider back is going to be a shot in the arm when he does get back. As we mentioned during the rundown.
Here's one for you, Mo. Here's one for you real quick. We mentioned the other day, Skeens is your NL Cy Young front runner, but Schwellenbach has got a little company right there. He's comfortably in fourth, but this is crazy. Spencer Strider, not too far behind him. He's like 10th in odds right now. He's 20. You can nab him at 25-1. So the guy's not even pitched, but you can still throw some shekels on him to do it. I'm looking for Sale is listed at 30-1. So Strider and Sale are back to back. So if you're Atlanta, you got three arms kind of in the upper half. That doesn't really get you wins. That doesn't necessarily amount to anything, but at least kind of maybe makes you feel a little positive about what you're capable of. The fact you got three guys that could go at any given time and do some great stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that the rotation was something that you felt good about coming into this season to start with. I think you felt pretty good about the offense as well. That's kind of been the rub to this point. So, 4-2-11, they go to Tampa tonight. The Rays coming in at 5-7. It'll be Bryce Elder on the bump for Atlanta. No record, 6.75 ERA. Taj Bradley 1-0 with a 4.91. Getting the start for Tampa Bay. 7-10 in Houston. The Astros take on the surging Los Angeles Angels. The Angels coming in at 8-4 on the season. Houston 5-7. Jack Kachanowicz 1-0 with a 3.27 ERA getting the start for the Angels. It'll be Ronel Blanco. Ronel Blanco. There we go. 0-1 with a 9.45, and that looks ugly. That 9.45 ERA getting the start for the Astros. You got to be careful with this Angels team. In their last outing yesterday, Joe Adele, Taylor Ward, and Mike Trout each hit 2 home runs against Tampa Bay in an 11-1 win. So, again, Wash has got the Angels pointed in the right direction. They have won all 4 of their series to open the season. Good for him.
Good for him and good for the Angels. I kind of quietly had the Athletics circled as my sneaky team in the West this year. Not that they would win the division, not that they would even, maybe go 500, but a team that would be friskier than most. And they've still kind of been frisky, the A's have, but the Angels have kind of gone beyond that. 4 games above and just a half game back of Texas, who is suddenly, somewhat looked they certainly don't look invincible. This is going to be kind of a fun division. I kind of mentioned it a couple days ago. Kind of reminds you of the NFC South. It's going to be pretty ugly and hard for a lot of fans that don't have a rooting interest to kind of watch. But if you're in the thick of things, you kind of love it. You kind of relish it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Angels are playing some great ball.
The Angels have scored 65 runs in 12 games. The only American League teams to score more to this point are the Yankees with 82 in 12 and the Red Sox with 71, but in 14. So I think that's going to be a number to keep an eye on as the season progresses. If this offense continues to crank for the Angels, they may be frisky for a while. We mentioned in the rundown the Sounds fell to Memphis yesterday 8-3. That was their first loss in that series to this point. They will continue tonight over at First Horizon. Memphis scored in the 3rd inning last night, stopped the Sounds scoreless innings pitched of 27 scoreless innings pitched streak of 27 straight. So Sounds been dealing here of late, and maybe they can get that going here again with Carlos Rodriguez getting the start against the Redbirds tonight. So hour number 1 is in the books here on the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we will get in the grab bag. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2 of the weekend warm-up kicks off right now here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. As we mentioned, little NFL news. Joe Flacco will be back in Cleveland, apparently, for the 2025 season. The two entities agreeing to a 1-year, $4 million deal that includes up to $13 million in incentives. Okay. So you've got Flacco, you've got Kenny Pickett, and you've got Deshaun Watson in the quarterback room for the Browns. Not sure exactly where Watson is with that Achilles situation. Cleveland traded Dorian Thompson-Robinson to Philadelphia to get Pickett, who has previously started at Pittsburgh and not very well. So it's an interesting scenario, I guess, in Cleveland at the quarterback spot,
to say the least. And it feels like this might not be the last quarterback discussion we have with Cleveland. It feels like they might pull something off at some point during the draft. It's kind of just the way I'm thinking, because, I mean, you rattle off those names, and based on Watson's injury, first and foremost, and then based on his just literal play from last year, those three names, you don't really, I mean, if you're naming all three of those, you don't really feel great about any of your options. And, you know, it's bad when Jimmy Haslam basically came out, last week and said, hey, we messed up with Deshaun Watson. I was like, this guy's still on your team, technically. And it feels like that experiment has kind of set sail. But it also feels like Flacco, for all the great, vibes they had 2 years ago with him and that crazy 5 or 6 quarterback rotation that he leads them to the playoffs. You don't feel great about any of that. So that's why I'm curious to see if they pull off a little something in the draft, because you obviously need one. They have some talent around in other spots, but man, that is a disheartening situation at best right now in Cleveland.
I don't understand, if you are Haslam and if Deshaun Watson is still on your roster, as you mentioned, why do you say that? What purpose are you serving by saying that?
I mean, without knowing specifically when he could be cut with the least amount of cost, I guess. Like I said, it feels like if we had to go Vegas mode and assign a number of starts for him in Cleveland from here on out, the over-under would be half, right? It feels like he is not going to be back in a starting capacity. And likely, probably, yeah. That makes, to your point, it makes no sense. Why would you say that if this is a guy that you want to kind of continue to be a part of your franchise, right?
And why would you say it if it's a guy that you want to maybe try to move somewhere? I mean, I don't know what Deshaun Watson's trade value is, particularly with that contract. But, if you've got any chance of getting anything out of any other team in the league for him, this doesn't help it.
Doesn't help. The only other thing I could think of is, the Haslam family in Cleveland, they're in a weird deal. We've been through this here locally, but they're wanting a new shiny fancy stadium. They're talking about moving out to the burbs, and they're involved with local municipality type situation. So maybe in a way, this is Haslam coming out and saying, look, we messed up. We took the big swing and a miss, as he said. Maybe this is a way to just buy favor back with the fans. Hey, I may not be able to save Deshaun Watson, but if I can save some face with my fans and perhaps some other dignitaries, in Cleveland, maybe that. I mean, none of that really makes sense to me.
Well, but it is Cleveland, and you are on record as calling them an unserious franchise. So
pretty unserious. Now, when they snag Travis Hunter right at the top of the draft. They'll still be unserious, but man, all of a sudden they look a little more, little more serious at that point. You got Garrett back, and then you get a little shine with Hunter too. I mean, yeah, they're trending in the right direction.
They'll be unserious with some talent, huh?
Yeah.
Speaking of unserious, nice little segue, actually, unintended, but we'll take it. The Colts have cut a kicker who they signed 2 years ago to the largest contract ever given to a free agent kicker. Matt Gay signed a 4-year, $22.5 million deal with Indianapolis back in 2023 after hitting 93.3% of his field goals with the Rams the previous year. In the last 2 years, he's hit only 82.1% of his field goal attempts. And let's see, perfect 28 of 28 inside 50, 3 of 9 from beyond 50. 31 years old. But wouldn't that age have kind of factored into signing that deal that you are halfway through, theoretically?
Yeah, the only thing I guess maybe is, this is the kicking position is the one, I guess punting to an extent too, but special teams, if you're not performing and your standards, the timing is the only thing that seems a little odd to me on this, because if your numbers are not at a certain level, no offense to Matt Gay, no offense to any special teamers out there, but we can grab anybody. We've seen it time and time again, right? You could go out on the streets of Indianapolis and find somebody that could get reasonably close to potentially what you're getting engaged. So when you have that position and you see that decline, in a weird way, props to the Colts for kind of cutting bait. You do look a little foolish for giving that big of a contract at this point, but if a guy's not producing, this is the one position that they yank with a quickness, it feels like, in the NFL.
And I guess the only thing that looks worse than signing a bad contract and getting out of it is signing a bad contract and staying in it, I guess. So
yeah. I mean, right. I mean, imagine if he comes out and just stinks up the joint yet again this season. Right. It just looks worse and worse. I mean, miss a game winner or, miss a few that, you could have been in the game. I mean, it can make it tough. And like you said, it was tough because he had some great run in Los Angeles, had a pretty decent start to his career in Tampa too. This guy had some promise worthy of the contract seemingly at the time, but it has not gone well during that stint in Indy. Barely above 80% the last 2 years.
Yeah. Their only kicker on the roster now is 25-year-old Spencer Schrader, who played with 3 different teams last season, the Chiefs and the Jets, in addition to the Colts. So suffice it to say, the place kicker position in Indianapolis is up for grabs heading into training camp later this year. So
yeah, that's maybe good news for our boy D. Stroing down there with the San Antonio Brahmas. Let him get into camp one time and see what happens.
You would think that with the job that Jake Bates did for Detroit last year, that more folks would be looking in that direction for kickers, probably. So maybe he does have a shot.
And it feels like this is a franchise by franchise deal too. Feels like certain franchises put much more emphasis on special teams. Some teams don't have to and are able to get by, with just kind of quote unquote mediocre special teams play. Some teams have to have excellent special teams play to even have a chance. We've seen some of that locally the last couple of years, and it's been bad the last 2 years. But, it will be fascinating to see. We talked a little bit about the state of the game kind of changing. Doesn't really impact the kickoff as much here, but that place kicker is such a massive weapon if you can strike gold. And teams that kind of identify those key players and reward them justly, they seemingly find success.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, maybe we had the development in baseball where Major League Baseball was adapting individual statistics compiled by players who had played in the Negro leagues and saw some career numbers change as a result of that and some career leaders and that kind of thing. Well, the NFL earlier this week announced that they would be incorporating the records from the All-America Football Conference into its record books. The All-America Football Conference, the AAFC, was a 4-year direct competitor to the NFL from 1946 through 49. The Cleveland Browns, the original Cleveland Browns, the Baltimore Colts, and the San Francisco 49ers all survived, merged into the NFL. But as a result, the Patriots, I guess, are the most affected by this because Cleveland won all 4 of those league championships from 46 to 49, which means that Brown's starting quarterback at that time, Otto Graham, and Tom Brady are tied for the most championships by any player in NFL history. Now, obviously, Brady's are all Super Bowl championships, but Graham's now qualify as league championships. They each played in 10 league championship games. They were each 7-3 in championship games. And again, Brady is now tied with Graham for league championships, but not obviously Super Bowl championships. Also, Bill Belichick with 6 Super Bowl championships as a head coach has been passed for most championships, league championships, by Paul Brown of the Cleveland Browns. He has 6. Brown has 7. 4 of those again coming in the AAFC. So again, the Patriots are saying, I wonder if the Patriots were consulted before this took place.
Yeah, Robert Kraft probably not too happy. He's like, I got to go out and do a whole bunch of rebranding now. Those signs are slightly inaccurate, perhaps, around Gillette. I'm just curious. I saw this story and I was kind of fascinated by it. Didn't dive super deep, but I'm curious at what was the prompt, I guess, right? What spurred this on? Was this something kind of like MLB and the Negro leagues that, had kind of been trending in a certain direction, and it was a question of just perhaps compiling all the data? I'm curious if there was a proposal. I'm kind of fascinated how this played out, really.
It would be nice to know how this played out, and I've not really seen anything as far as what brought it about or why, but or what the rationale was to incorporating the AAFC numbers into the NFL. Maybe just an opportunity to recognize, some folks who otherwise wouldn't have been. I don't know. And why now, I guess, would probably be as big a question
That's what I'm wondering.
as anything. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe they look at Brady and say, how bad do you want to be an owner? All right, well, guess what? We're going to go ahead and change these records. Bill Belichick, how you want to leave the league? Well, guess what? We're going to stick our nose out or thumb out at you here because this I don't know. I find the timing of it just a touch odd. But
and
props to the Browns. The Browns do have seemingly, I know it's hard to believe, but a winning pedigree once upon a time. So they'll get the in-laws excited if nothing else. So
maybe this is another Raz at Kraft, as you mentioned. Already he's not in the Hall of Fame yet, and he's already a little red about that probably. And so now, like you said, he's got some rebranding to do on top of everything else. So yeah, it's tough being Robert Kraft. News today out of the college football ranks. Kent State coach Kenny Burns, who had been placed on administrative leave last month, just before that program started spring practice, has been fired. Offensive coordinator Mark Carney has been installed as interim coach for the upcoming season. Kent State went 1-23 over the last two seasons. Included in that 23 was a complete demolishing in Neyland Stadium last fall. Burns had previously been an assistant under P.J. Fleck at Minnesota, had also worked at Western Michigan with Fleck, and had been at Wyoming and North Dakota State, played his ball at Indiana. And the circumstances behind his administrative leave were never necessarily brought to light, but he has been sued or had been sued by an Ohio bank for $23,000 and interest. That was later dismissed, but clearly there was something going on that, college football coaches don't typically get fired on April 11th, but that is the case with Kent State of the MAC. So
yeah, it felt like something's kind of been simmering. The record was not good. Something kind of bubbling on this story. It felt like, in some regards, I'm kind of surprised that 2 weeks later we're finding this out. It felt like when there was smoke, there was probably fire instantly, but we drag it out. Tough break for everybody, and we'll be curious to see if the Golden Flashes can kind of maybe restore a little glory here.
Yeah. We mentioned during the rundown, Minnesota 141, Memphis 125 last night in NBA play. And after we had just discussed San Antonio doing the Grizzlies a solid the night before, as Golden State was dropped into the number 7 spot in the Western Conference standings and likely looking at that play-in, well, Minnesota does Golden State a solid, because now the Warriors, the Grizzlies, and the Timberwolves are all tied for 6th place in the West. And Golden State, if things hold up, would hold that number 6 spot, which would mean both Memphis and Minnesota are headed to the play-in, which Minnesota, I think, was kind of resigned to that anyway. Memphis, perhaps not as much. But yeah, tough loss for the Grizzlies last night.
Yeah, tough break for them. Defense was optional for both teams, but especially for Memphis. Third quarter really got away from them. And despite a late comeback, they had it down to 10 after trailing by 20 plus. Minnesota almost was on the other end of another embarrassing loss. They had just blown a 24-point lead in the fourth quarter versus Milwaukee 2 nights before. Nearly gave Memphis just enough of a comeback there to fall victim a second time. But props to them for closing it out. Memphis with a massive game tonight versus the Nuggets.
2 interim coaches going at it tonight, huh?
Yeah, Memphis, kind of set the bar, and a lot of folks are saying, Mo, that this technically means the Nuggets are in their post Malone era at the moment here. So make of that what you will. Been waiting all week for that one. That was hot. That was hot on the internet. I had to get in on the fun.
I'm surprised you were able to hold that one as long as you did. Good job. Texas freshman Trey Johnson headed to the draft. SEC Rookie of the Year, former 5-star recruit, led the Longhorns in points and minutes played over the course of this season as Texas made it to the NCAA tournament before losing in the first round. So Trey Johnson, one and done, and is expected to be a lottery pick in all likelihood.
Yeah, likely lottery. NBADraft.net has him as high as 9th in their most recent mocks, so perhaps even a top 10. He's got the goods. He could be a fun player to watch, especially give him a season or two to kind of get acclimated to the professional game. But, man, he was dazzling in that first year with the Longhorns.
No doubt. Going to be fun to watch him at the next level if he continues at the rate that he, played at Texas this year. So good luck to him. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the weekend warm-up, we'll be joined by Meghan L. Hall of For the Win, talking WNBA draft. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
The weekend warm-up continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely, and we are pleased to have joining us from For the Win, Meghan L. Hall, who covers women's basketball, collegiate and professional for that publication /website. Meghan, Good afternoon.
Yeah, afternoon. What's going on, guys?
What's up?
Hey, you tell us. The WNBA draft is Monday night. Dallas has the number 1 pick. Is it Paige Booker's or is it the field?
Well, first I got to talk about Wade's mustache. Like, that thing is like epic. I think the last time I saw you, I don't think you had that. So that's phenomenal.
I've grown up since then.
But I love it. I love it.
Late bloomer. Thank you.
But yeah, it would be like probably one of the wildest draft events I would see in my lifetime if Paige Beckers is not the number 1 pick. By all accounts, that is the expectation. Dallas has spoken very glowingly of her. Everything that we are hearing and seeing points to it being, Paige Beckers. I'm willing to bet, the lint in my pocket that, it's Paige. So I can't see it being anything other than Paige. The only other pick possibly, if like for some reason Dallas is like, hey, we're out on Paige, is maybe Dominique Malonga, potentially going number 1, which that would be shocking. But yeah, I expect it to be Paige.
Yeah, a guy that I'm Facebook friends with who is very well respected in the women's collegiate game, in particular, Milton Kent. You're probably familiar with the name, Megan, but he threw something out months ago, and it doesn't not make sense to me considering who the Wings' new head coach is. Any chance that it's Kiki Iriafen?
Iriafen. Yeah.
Iriafen, thank you.
Yeah. I'm gonna say no, and it's not because she's not worthy, obviously, to go number 1. Kiki will probably likely be a top 5 pick. That's probably my expectation. But it's more so based on recent play. So if you think about the NCAA tournament, she had this phenomenal, 36-point game right after Juju unfortunately went down. But then she couldn't repeat that. And it's not that she couldn't repeat it. She just didn't have a game up to her standards. UConn had some sweltering defense, as many of us saw all the way up through the national championship game. And that's kind of hard to, have a breakout game against. So I would be stunned if Kiki was number 1. But I do think that she has the ability to go top 5.
Are we sure that Paige is enamored with going to Dallas? Or does that matter?
To be honest with you, I don't think it matters at all where Paige, potentially lands. She just said it, on the Today Show, like she's happy where she lands. To be honest with you, and this is just my personal opinion, I think we all kind of made it up in our minds that like, oh, Paige might not want to go to Dallas. Like, I have never bought into that whatsoever. I think by all accounts, like it's a matter of looking at Paige Beckers in general. This is her dream to win a national championship and then go to the WNBA, right? And I think for her and for any player, really, like, you getting drafted is a huge deal. You getting drafted number 1 is like life changing. So whether that team was the Dallas Wings or not, I think Paige Beckers is going to be happy. She strikes me as the type of person who, wants to come in, work hard. She's a winner. And she will contribute wherever she goes. So I don't see it being a situation where it's like, oh no, I'm not going to Dallas. Like, that would probably send shockwaves through this draft. And not only would it upheaval what Dallas plans to do, but like the rest of the draft too. And I think we've had enough shakeups over the last several weeks with all kinds of trades and everything else going on that I think a lot of us would just like to get to the draft on Monday and have it be fairly calm. I'm going to knock on every piece of wood possible, but yeah, at least in those first couple of picks, we would love it to be, a little calm.
Yeah, and Megan, that's what I was going to say. Let's get Paige behind us and let's kind of, roll up our sleeves here. What do we have on tap? How wild will the next picks be? And Washington with 3 picks inside the top 6, do they have a specific strategy, or is it just best available? Because they're all going to be pretty good, you would imagine, with that going in the top 6 there.
Yeah, so if you think about it, after Olivia Miles pulled herself out of the draft, she's not going, right? That kind of essentially, quote unquote, broke the draft because it reset the draft board. So now you got to get really creative. Like, anything could really happen after, Paige goes. I expect it to be Dominique Malonga at 2. That's kind of my sentiment. Seattle has been reportedly high on Malonga as well, so it would make sense as a fit there. After that, yeah, the Mystics have 3. So 3, 4, and 6. So for them, by all all accounts, they've kind of given the indication that we are going to use those picks. So their new GM has said, like, hey, we want to build for the future. So it could be any combination, I think, of potentially Cheyenne Sellers. It could be Sonia Citron. It could be Anissa Morrow. It could even be Kiki Iriafen in there. Any combination of those players, I fully expect that to be. In my opinion, I don't think the draft really starts until you kind of get 5 and 6 going. Like, what is Golden State going to do? How are the Mystics going to round out their top 3, their picks there? And then that bottom half of the draft board, like Connecticut's got 2 picks back to back, which could shake things up. Like it gets really fun, past those kind of top 5 picks.
And so with that being said, I am kind of curious, how much damage, so to speak, can Washington do, for a team that went 14-26 last year? Is this draft deep enough that if they pick the 3 best or the 3 right, quote unquote, players, they could really, really flip that record around this year? Or do they still need a little extra juice in your mind?
Yeah, I think Washington has some pieces, right? Like you've got, Brittany Sykes is obviously going to return. She's healthy, right? You've got Shakira Austin, you've got Aaliyah Edwards, you got plenty of pieces there. So what they're trying to do now is bolster that depth and really kind of build for the future. I think Washington kind of knew, like, hey, this is a rebuild, right? Like after you trade Ariel Atkins, off to Chicago, it's straight up a rebuild. And so, I think for them, it's more of, hey, we can get these players now and potentially build for the future. So if you're the Mystics, yes, you would love to be competitive. You would love to snag a playoff spot, right? Like that's a really good scenario for a rebuild. But if they don't, I'm not really going to be shocked because you're building for the future here. You're building for potentially 26 and beyond. And also keep this in mind too. These rosters will not look the same once 2026 comes because the new CBA is going to make anyone who isn't on a rookie scale contract a free agent. So this entire league could get really wild. So that's why I just tell people, like, take the draft with a grain of salt because yes, these players are here to build, but also think about this. You not only have the CBA, but you got expansion teams coming too, right? So you got, Portland, for example, Toronto's coming as well. Like there's teams that are coming. And if you saw, for example, with this last expansion draft, Kate Martin was on the Aces last year. Now she's going to Golden State. So people could get moved around. A lot could happen here in the next season to season and a half.
MEGHAN L. Hall of For the Win joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, talking a little WNBA draft. The draft is Monday night. And you mentioned Malonga at number 2 to Seattle. Is she especially attractive to Seattle with them already having Gabby Williams on the roster? Being particularly familiar with her, I guess.
Yeah, I would think so. But for me, it's more, the relationships matter, right? But for me, it's more than just like the relationships. I think the other thing is you got to think about Seattle needs that post presence. Once you remove Eddie McBagger from the floor, where does your production come from is my first question, right? NECA can certainly help. Gabby can certainly help, but you're also missing Jordan Horson, who unfortunately is going to miss the season with an injury. So you need some post presence there. So for Seattle, Malonga is super attractive because in my opinion, she floats like a gazelle, like as tall as she is, that kind of limber, like that kind of agility on the court is almost unheard of. And she's so fluid and smooth. And I think that is something that could potentially set Seattle apart, especially if she's going to play now, or even if you want to draft and then stash her. That's a piece to build on for the future, right? And I think for Seattle, they're in a mode too where they've got to kind of retool the way that they're going to look after, losing Jewel Lloyd. Then you get some pieces back. You get Lee Yuru as a center as well. You've got a bunch of guards on Seattle too. I think there's 5 now on that roster. So I can't really see them drafting a guard per se, but you definitely need post presence. So Malonga makes a lot of sense at 2.
What makes sense for Golden State at 5? And obviously, I guess they're kind of on pins and needles, given that Washington has 3 and 4 and really kind of dictates a lot of what they want to do.
Yeah, Golden State's in a precarious position because I feel like they could really go best player available and not be like upset at whatever happens with that board, right? There's a couple of players who I've kind of penciled into Golden State. Kiki Iriafen is one. Sonia Citron is the other. Anissa Morrow is probably the third that could, potentially happen. What makes this particularly difficult, it depends on how you value Iriafen and Morrow. Do you value Iriafen higher? Is Morrow's size a concern? She's only 6'1". Could she take a tumble, right? Do you value Citron because she's kind of the catch-all? She's almost like a Swiss Army knife, so to speak. She's got all those tangibles. She can score. She's fantastic on both sides of the ball. It just really depends on what you value for Golden State. And for Golden State, I mean, yeah, in my opinion, they probably go, best available there at 5. But if you're feeling confident, you feel like, okay, we could get ourselves a starter here at 5. Because remember, they're still tooling their roster too. Yeah, somebody like Kiki Iriafin potentially plugging right into the lineup next to Timmy Fagbenle. Like, there's a lot that could potentially happen for Golden State, and they could have a home run sort of draft in the first round.
Wade and I kind of keep up with the Aces. We also kind of keep up with the Atlanta Dream. Neither of them drafts in the first round. The Dream trading their pick to Washington at 6. The Aces forfeiting their pick over some off-court issues. But what do you see them doing once they do get to pick? Vegas at 13 and the Dream at 18 in the second round. And I know a lot of that is kind of shots in the dark because of so much help going on ahead of that.
Yeah, so for Vegas, I look for shooters for them, right? You lost Kelsey Plum. You do get Joel Lloyd back, of course, but you want to look for guard depth and help there. I also wouldn't be shocked to see them take a big to help fill out their roster. Someone who strikes me as particularly interesting is, let's say that Tahina Paopao doesn't go in the first round. If she slides out, I would not be shocked at all to see the Las Vegas Aces snag her right there at 13. You have a South Carolina connection there. You have a Don Staley connection, of course. She brings a heavy, obviously production on both sides of the ball. She's a willing defender. Like, that is right up, Becky Hammond's alley. For the Dream, it makes it particularly interesting because they've kind of got close to a full roster. They did really good in the offseason in getting, Brittany Griner. You got Bree Jones now. You get Shatora Walker Kimbrough, leading your, kind of your bench unit there. To me, it really just depends on what the Dream, sort of value. If you want to get another point guard behind Jordan Canada, there's an option there to potentially, maybe you trade up if you feel like, hey, we've got to, get some extra there. But also remember, they still have 2 draft picks from last season that have not played yet. So, it's potentially for the Dream. They could sit on their hands and say, hey, we're okay for right now. I would not be shocked about that at all. I don't necessarily see any trades happening in the first round potentially, but second round could get, a little interesting if there's teams that feel like, hey, we want to get someone. Middle of the second round might be a potential area. The Fever have 2 back-to-back picks, and they're also a team that is nearly at full strength. So if the Fever are willing to part with a pick there, maybe you get someone like the Dream who, could move up or whatnot. It really just depends on, how the Dream are feeling about their roster.
Megan, while we're talking trades there, I am curious. In the WNBA draft, do we have the same deal as the NBA draft where the trades take forever to process, or is it a little more streamlined? Because, man, that is frustrating considering how quick we can get the info on social, but they don't announce it for like 2 hours later.
Yeah, WNBA is a little bit faster.
Okay,
I would say
you.
that a lot of those trades typically happen on the front end. So like last year before the draft, you had the Chicago Sky, Minnesota Lynx. They have this kind of like swap here. That's how you get Angel Reese in Chicago. That's how, Minnesota ends up picking Alyssa Peely. I would be stunned if there was a trade in the first round and we just didn't hear about it, for a while. But it could be, potentially if let's say there's another player that gets moved, like not necessarily someone being drafted, but like another player off that's a current vet that gets drafted, then we could see something where it might take a second to like shake that out. But I would expect that we would probably know that before the end of the night.
Other question, perhaps the most serious question. Last year's fits were electric. What can we expect on the red carpet from the ladies on Monday night?
Yeah.
Surely it can't be as good as last year's, right? I mean, but maybe.
I mean, potentially. So that the fits are one of my favorite parts of the draft. You get some folks who probably surprise you. Caitlin Clark came out in the white Prada last year. Cameron comes out in the black and white, like one shoulder. Rakia Jackson had 2 fits last year, the red on the carpet and then the silver, in the draft. Just some wonderful, Angel Reese comes in like the hood, almost like the Whitney Houston from Bodyguard look. Like there was so much good fits last year. fully expect that to happen this year. What I'm
Okay.
looking forward is, can Paige Beckers top her outfit from last year? So she obviously was not drafted last year, but she showed up to the draft in an all-white fit. And it was phenomenal. She looked great. And she kind of, stole a moment because it was like, oh, not only is Paige here, but she looks fantastic. So I would be interested to see what Paige wears. I also talked to Cameron Brink recently, and she is not only friends with Paige, but also friends with Kiki Iriafen. They both played together, of course, at Stanford. And she said to me that she's looking forward to seeing what Kiki brings out for the draft because she feels like Kiki cleans up very well. So I would just, keep your head on a swivel. I'm sure we'll get some really good fits. Cannot wait to see what we get.
I mean, that's one of the highlights of the draft, NBA and WNBA. But yeah, last year's rundown, like you said, especially with Angel, Caitlin, kind of that rivalry. But they were almost trying to outdo each other in terms of the fit. Everybody was dressed. I'm curious to see that as well on Monday night.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think it'll be really fun. The cool thing about the orange carpet is that it's just a vibe. Like everyone's coming off to show their fits, and the rivalries kind of go out of the window. Everyone wants to celebrate everyone. And I do remember being at the draft last year, and this wasn't even the carpet or the draft itself, but like there was an event beforehand at the Empire State Building, and I mean, these players are taking selfies with each other like they've been friends all along, which they are. They're friends off the court. And I think a lot of people forget that. So this is really just a moment for everyone to celebrate each other. So celebrating fits, celebrating each other getting drafted. And, also think about this too. This is probably the first time in a while that players have had a chance to spend time with each other that's not on the court. So you get a lot of players who get to, say hi to their friends, who get to say hi to their rivals or people that, they don't play with. So they get a really good chance to just hang out and really just, kind of be themselves for a couple of hours.
Megan, talk me through Rakia with two different outfits, because that sounds like a little bit much.
So I will be honest with you. I thought Rakia's first outfit was phenomenal. She had this red kind of two-piece outfit. So it had pants. It was almost like a corset almost with like a sash that was attached to it. She looked great. She looked phenomenal. And then I remember sitting in the kind of the press conference room. We're waiting for the picks to come through, after they've been announced, and they've got a screen there. And I said to myself, I was like, wait a minute. Wasn't she in red? Like, what happened? And she comes out and she's got this kind of 90s glam look going on. She's got sunglasses. She's got her hair up, really phenomenal, like silver glittery, suit or whatnot. And when she came in the conference room, to do her first presser as a member of the Sparks, she looked gorgeous, just stunning. And so I was really shocked that someone would do a mid-draft change, but I'm so here for it. Like, so if anybody's listening, please pull out the mid-draft fits, swap them out. We were totally here for two different looks. It looked great. I loved it. I'm totally here for it. It's probably one of the first times I've ever seen someone like swap fits mid-draft, but I loved it. It was great.
What college player are you most intrigued by, where they wind up Monday night?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm probably gonna say Haley Van Lith. She's had the best story, I think, one of the best stories in all of sports this season. Could she find herself in the first round? That's a question, many of us are wondering. I think it's probably, back half of the second round. So probably Sparks. It could be Chicago Sky reunion with Angel Reese. Could be, the Lynx somewhere in there. So 9, 10, 11, somewhere in those picks. But yeah, she's probably one that I'm very interested to see where she lands. She did herself a phenomenal, justice, and she had a great season and she had a great tournament, even though TCU, obviously didn't, get to, a championship or win a championship, but she played great. And I think it really helped her draft stock. So also, keep in mind with Olivia Miles out, you're probably going to see several guards and their stock kind of bump up a little bit, and they're probably going to go a little higher than what they would have, probably just a week or two ago.
Who benefits the most from that?
I'm actually going to say Cheyenne Sellers, and probably not enough people are talking about Cheyenne, but she's probably the best true point guard that's left, after Olivia Miles that could potentially, float up the draft board. I've had her in the mix for like 6 with the Mystics, but she could float up. She could go to 3. I would not be shocked at all to see Cheyenne's, stock kind of go up there. She had a great tournament run as well. Maryland had probably the best game of the tournament, that, in my opinion, when they played Alabama, and it was multiple overtimes and everyone's out of breath. And, Cheyenne was great in that game too. So yeah, she did herself a great job and a great justice in helping her draft stock as well. So would not be shocked to see her kind of, float up the draft board.
Megan L. Hall For the Win joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, getting you ready for the WNBA draft Monday night. Megan, we appreciate your insight and look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'll be at the draft too, so I'll have those insights ready for you as well. And of course, we'll be writing and doing videos from that.
Well, be sure and, get us some notes on the fits so that you can give us maybe your top 5 when we catch up with you again, because I know between you and Wade, y'all will be well tuned into that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I got you for sure.
We love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports today. Let's come back and wrap up the weekend warm-up with what's coming up. Stick around.
Hey, let's go Stros.
People are amazed at the variety and quality of guests we bring into Main Street Sports today. But when you've been in this business for nearly 40 years and you never throw away a phone number, it's pretty easy. Right, Wade?
Absolutely. And Wynn agrees with me. Check out some of our guests featured on Main Street Sports today.
Step back and catch my breath. But I expect nothing less from you, big boy. Let's get going.
We make it work pretty good. So
the fans are tremendous. It's fantastic.
It was really amazing.
Performance shoot. Yeah.
From preps to pros, you never know who's going to stop by, so be sure to listen to and watch Main Street Sports today from 2 to 4 p.m. daily on the MSM TV app. It's the final segment of the weekend warm-up here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. The Nashville Predators head to Vegas for a 9 o'clock puck drop tomorrow night on a 2-game win streak following last night's 4-3 shootout victory over Utah at Bridgestone. Saving the best for last, maybe?
Maybe, kind of end on a little bit of a run, get the vibes right, and the guys that are coming back or want to be back, maybe boost them, put them in good spirits. Be nice to at least finish. Saw something crazy. I don't know if I can find this, but Utah, we obviously talked about, first year, quote unquote, after relocating. They played something like 20. They showed the stat last night, like 21 overtime games this season. So they've fancied extra. And like I said in the opening of the show, the Preds found themselves down a man in the extra period. And that is a wild scene where you have the 4-on-3. Mm-hmm. I mean, just acres of space, it felt like. But somehow, some way, they were able to force it to the shootout, got a couple stops, got a goal, got the win. Let's keep it rolling.
UC 39 saves on the night, 3 in the shootout.
He was nails.
That's crazy to think about. I mean, because like you said, when you've got a 4-on-3, how do you not score is almost what it feels like. But in the shootout, Philip Forsberg scores his second goal of the night, and that was obviously the difference. Blankenberg and O'Reilly also with goals. And I don't know what you take from it necessarily, if anything, because Utah was eliminated from the postseason earlier this week as well. So it's not like they're great. And, to Wade's point, 21 overtimes. Maybe you just take it as we have been for most of the season. It's a win, and there haven't been a lot of those. So enjoy it. And let's see if they can string this thing out to 3 straight against the Golden Knights tomorrow night.
Yeah, you put a small dent in your ping pong chances, but not a lot. It doesn't look like Boston will be able to quote unquote overtake you. But you want to close on a decent note, so maybe get a couple wins. A lot of good hockey last night, Mo. Shout out to Western Michigan and Boston University. The Frozen Four delivered. Western Michigan won. I watched most of both of the overtimes. 2 overtimes. They knock off Denver, and then Boston. Think about that. You're ready to play the second game, and it goes to 2 full overtimes. So Boston and Penn State, they didn't drop that puck till like 9:30 last night. Props to those that stuck around, and props to Western Michigan and Boston. They'll play tomorrow night for the championship.
Right. There we go. The Frozen Four. I really like that. That's kind of cool. I don't know who came up with that years ago, but that's good stuff. Walker Zimmerman doesn't sound like he's going to be available for the Nashville Soccer Club tomorrow when they take on visiting Real Salt Lake over at Geodis. That's a 7:30 puck, 7:30 first touch at Geodis. Salt Lake coming in 3-0-4. That's 3 wins, 0 draws, and 4 losses. NSC 3-1-3 with that loss last week over at Charlotte, but I saw somewhere, Wade, that their 3-1-1 start was the best in franchise history. I know they've lost these last 2 against Cincinnati and against Charlotte, but that was a quiet, great start. Even more so than we realized, I guess.
Yeah, off to the best start in MLS history for sure. MLS. And I mean, number one, short history, and number 2, they've had to settle for so many draws under Gary Smith, which there's something to be said for that. But when you kind of expect or anticipate a draw instead of anticipate or chasing a win, you're kind of stunting your growth and your potential, right? So the ceiling is higher for Nashville, as we said a number of times. Man, the Zimmerman injury, though, that he is truly kind of their engine. Mukhtar gets a lot of the attention up top, and deservedly so, but you cannot overstate the loss of Zimmerman at the back for Nashville.
Yeah, he's still in concussion protocol after that kick to the face head against Charlotte in the 72nd minute. BJ Callahan, according to the Nashville Post, he's basically currently progressing himself through concussion protocol. It's a day-by-day sequence that we're following. We'll make that evaluation when we have to on Friday when we announce the roster for Saturday. But that's because we're trying to do it through the protocol, do it step by step and as safely as possible. So no more word as of right now, but it doesn't sound like he is going to be available tomorrow. And that's a tough loss for them, as you were saying.
Yeah, tough loss. The only benefit is you're playing at home. Real's not necessarily they're scrappy, and if you're not careful and wounded like Nashville is, you can certainly get beat. But playing at home versus a team that you should be able to take care of, not necessarily the most grim. You'd like to get him back as quick as possible, though, because I got some toughies coming up soon.
Yeah, we mentioned it when we had Chip Walters on earlier in the week. Saturday in the Borough. Tomorrow, it's just an extravaganza of sports on the Middle Tennessee State University campus. Get started with a 1 o'clock soccer match against Cumberland. Also, the gates open for the Blue Raider Showcase at 1 o'clock at Floyd Stadium. Apparently, Gate 2 is the preferred gate of entry. I imagine that's farthest away from the construction that is going on over there on the north end of the field. So autographs on the field will be taking place from 1:20 to 1:45. The showcase starts at 2. And afterwards, you've got both baseball and softball teams in action. Softball has a game against Western Kentucky. Baseball continues a series with Louisiana Tech. Both of those will start at 4 o'clock. So just make a day of it over at MTSU tomorrow. A lot going on.
Go Blue Raiders, baby.
Absolutely. Wade has been resisting the UFL, but they are in week 3 of regular season play, starting tonight as Arlington travels to Birmingham. Houston is at Memphis tomorrow at the Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium, formerly known as the Liberty Bowl. And you've got a doubleheader on Sunday. San Antonio is at Michigan, and DC is at St. Louis. St. Louis, one of 3 undefeated teams in the league. They are 2-0, as are Arlington and the Defenders. So you got an undefeated matchup there, capping things off Sunday. Maybe they can draw Wade's eyes for a little bit this week.
Not this week, Mo. We got the Grizz and Nuggets tonight. We got NSC tomorrow. We got Masters. After the NFL draft, I'll have that football urge. I'll be riding high on endorphins, but I won't have anything to scratch it. That might be the weekend that we tap into.
There we go. We talked to Heather Williams earlier in the week. It's Bristol, baby. The Food City 500, 2:00 Sunday. You can see it on FS1. Can Denny Hamlin get a third straight? Heather
be cool. Be cool to see, right?
He typically runs pretty well up there. So, yeah.
Be cool to see. Feels like that race is always good for some theatrics, and that's one that Mama Neely loves. That she doesn't watch much anymore these days in this new era of NASCAR, but she always kind of circles Bristol, so it should be fun on Sunday afternoon.
Okay. Looks like Justin Rose is 3 shots clear of Bryson DeChambeau, as they have both completed their second rounds at the Masters down in Augusta. Rory McIlroy, Rose is 1 shot ahead of DeChambeau. He was 3 ahead today. So, Rose 8 under through 2 rounds. DeChambeau 7 under. McIlroy, Connors, and Tyrell Hatton each at 6 under. Each of those 3 are still McIlroy's done. Connors is still out on the course, as is Hatton. So,
yeah, Connors, the Canadians throwing up some damage. This is going to be a fun one this weekend. Since 2000, in the last 5 years, nobody has come from worse than outside of third after the opening day to win. So if that holds true, the only people that can win this thing are Rose, Connors, Scheffler, and Oberg. Oberg is kind of fallen back to earth a little bit. Scheffler has not had a great day. 3 bogeys, 3 birdies, kind of an even par, kind of a round by his standards. I think this will be a fun weekend, especially with Rose, DeChambeau, and McIlroy right there at the top.
Okay. I just saw something that kind of threw me off. Wade? Hello?
Yeah.
Is Wade frozen? Oh, what have you got for us here to close this thing out as we wrap up the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today?
We will do the very, very best we can to hold down the fort next week, but we just wanted to say bon voyage and safe travels. We look forward to hearing tales of your travels when you return, hopefully safely, in a week's time.
Oh, I fully intend to return safely, man, and I appreciate it. And I have no doubt that everything will be fine while I'm gone, but I will be gone next week. And so
catch a marlin for producer Mark and I.
We don't have any fishing excursions, and it's probably just as well, because that would probably be the thing that would make things a little less safe for me. So but we're gonna hang out and chill out and have some fun, and I will see y'all a week from Monday. Wade will be here with you at 2:00, so be sure and tune in to Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Y'all have a good weekend, and I'll see you in a week.